I like to dream. I always told to dream big. People always seem to like different things. Everyone has a different opinion. Everyone likes to say things differently. If you were to, for example, take a person who doesn't really like the story in a video game, like they never really care for the story or the movie or anything like that. They just want to get to the point and have fun. I feel like they kind of undermine the passion in the story that the writers took the time to think up, you know? But that's not really a bad thing. I mean, that just means that they all grew up. They all moved past that dream ideology, you know? People's dreams never end. It's just they become more realistic. As time goes on, they seem to just ignore all the dreams and things that they used to think about when they were kids. I think being an introvert kind of helps me get connected with my inner thoughts. I can sometimes space out and think about things that just make more sense in my head. Stories, dreams. I like to think fiction is the ultimate distraction. It helps you think. It also allows you to come up with ideas, stories, and you just enjoy the process of getting through like a game story and figuring out like the lore that was intended for you to figure out over people that just play the game and have fun. But at that point, what is it stop being interesting to me? Is having fun just too specific? From my understanding, I think that fun is kind of overrated. When you decide that you want to start a new project or new game, you have less fun the more you're thinking about it. You have less fun when you're trying to, get to the end of the game. They always say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. For me and other people, I think that holds a lot of truth. For some people, they don't see that as like the goal. They get dopamine off of wanting to finish a game faster, quicker, smarter, and they're very logical and patient people that always want to, well, they don't want to figure anything out. They want to have fun. That's basically the gist of it. And I think their patience also helps them to speed through it. Because that doesn't make a lot of sense when you want to get something done faster. It's usually because you're lazy. You don't want to be spending too much time on something, so you decide just to ignore it and come up with something else that'll help you beat the game faster. You get more joy doing things faster with your adrenaline pumping, and you just kind of get through to everything else that happens. But for me, I don't really get joy off of wanting to beat a game. I more enjoy the journey of things. I enjoy slowing down, even though my brain's so fast paced. My brain can really process things and understand them to a point where I want to indulge in what I understand and better think about it. Sometimes I say it out loud just to be weird, but I think I agree with myself all the time because it's just me thinking back on what I'm saying and trying to make sense of it. But I think a lot of people just kind of don't really do that. You know, like I said, get through the game, finish the show, finish the story. They don't enjoy the story because their brain moves not as quick. Not to say they're dumb, but to say they like to speed through things a lot more. But sometimes when you go too fast, you feel like you need to slow down. And that's why I like to think. That's why my brain's always thinking. I think a lot of introverts know that feeling, wanting to dream, wanting to get away and feel emotional. Emotional not as in sad or lonely, but as in you want to feel peace. You want to feel distracted, you want to feel distant. You want to spend time playing every single game that you can, not for the sole purpose of beating the game, but for the purpose of enjoying what you do. What joy do you get out of doing what's opposite? I think people say that opposites attract, but when it comes to what you're interested to, you should always stick to your basics. I think a lot of people try to force themselves to like new things, and if you like it, you like it. You tried it, you don't like it. I think that's where people just think that you should try everything, and if you don't like it, it's fine. Trying new things always can be scary, but I think change is always a good thing too. Some and sometimes even though we don't like change, it kind of kicks down your door and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Get up. We're going to a party." And immediately the few thoughts will run through your mind like, "Why? Why now? Why can't I just sleep some more?" And I think sleeping is one of the best parts about being a dreamer. You like to sleep in and relax, be at peace. You wake up and you feel more productive once you've slept. But I feel people don't always like to work after they sleep. People like to also indulge in things that they like video games or movies or, you know, just anything that we're passionate about. Because passion goes along with dreams. You can't be passionate about something if you always skip to the end. You can't be passionate if you're shown how to relax. You were always forced to do things ways that people wanted you to do them. I know how people always force me to do things that I don't want to do, but I go along with it. I say, even though I hate this, I'm gonna do it. And sometimes I just end up not doing things just because I just don't want to. I mean, people always forget that there's the thing called no. But the problem is, you can't always say no to your parents and then, yeah, you don't want to do that. That is not a good idea. But when it comes to going to events and hanging out with people, even if we care about them, sometimes we just need to be by ourselves. We don't like hearing what people have to say most of the time. We just like to be in the moment, you know? We like to take our time and enjoy that moment, every moment we're given. But then sometimes something bad will happen, and that interrupts our peace to a point where we need to react. And that always sometimes startles us, but we need to come to a point where it won't be as bad the next time. Because you're always going to be frightened by things. Things don't change. People don't change that often. People are always going to make you do things and say things and tell you how to do something, even though if you know your way of doing it is different than their way, you're never going to get anywhere just butting heads. But I also think that arguing sometimes can be helpful. I mean, if everyone agreed on the same things, then life would get really boring. So even if your opinions differ, if you can come to terms with the other person's opinion and just respect it, you can come on equal terms, find equal grounds, then you won't be as lonely, won't be as sad, and you'll just find peace. But there's no right or wrong answer in whose opinions are better because people's brains work differently. Our minds work differently. That's why people that move at a really fast pace, they like to slow down and enjoy things like reading or drawing or playing a game and playing it for the story, but also, they want to complete it because, if you don't complete a game, then where's the fun in playing the game? Where's the enjoyment if you don't enjoy the journey and then complete that journey? There's no satisfaction, you're left empty. But I also think sometimes when the story is too good, you don't feel any satisfaction after playing the game. You just feel empty. And when you feel empty, it's just to do with the fact that, it's over. And we don't want things to end. But things can't last forever. You can't expect a game or a movie or a story to go on forever if, it would just ruin the plot. I mean, look at SpongeBob. Every story is written a certain way that would hurt the writers. There would be a writer's block. It would hurt the characters and their development and undermine all the development they had gone through just because people want the story to keep going. I think that's not fair. I just don't think that's fair. These are fictional characters. It's not like, you know, they were, real. But even fictional characters were made by people who like to dream. And people who dream eventually have to come to face the fact that their dream will end. They will eventually reach the stopping point and where the dream is over. But we don't stop dreaming. People's dreams never end. People's dreams never die. Because when you dream big, you always have people telling you and people arguing with you that, you're never going to do this, you're never going to do that, you're never going to make it. But I feel that people just don't understand what making it actually means. Because for someone who dreams and someone who writes, making it is getting to the point where you yourself believe you're there. You make your own rules. No one can tell you how to play a game. Nobody can tell you how to write your story. It's up to you how to write what you want to write and what you're passionate about writing. Who's to say there's a right or wrong way to writing? But I also want to think that when you write something, if it's not entertaining, and if it's not, and even if people don't think it's good, everyone has different opinions. You, the writer, will always make the story in the way you vision it. You can't change someone else's mind on how they are writing their story unless they were being told that the story is crap. And I think that people can sometimes they can ignore it, but I think people understand that a lot of people aren't gonna want to read like hundreds of pages of something that just doesn't get to like a good ending or a good point. That they kind of just drop the book or the story or whatever they're doing. Or whatever the adult, like the person who's indulging in your story, whatever they're doing is entirely up to them. People will receive what you create differently. They're not everyone's going to see things the same way that you do. So I think that every book and every story needs people that can accept it and see what it for what it is and just enjoy it. You can never become a good writer without your fans. Never become a good writer without people that enjoy your books. When you make something that people don't really understand or they can't really comprehend, that's fine too. But there will be people that don't like it. People that can't see the forest for the trees. They can't understand the deeper meaning of things. I think people always want to write it this way or rewrite something this way, or they never want the story to end. When I was a kid, I used to like these shows like Gravity Falls. But Gravity Falls is over. And the only thing I can do is imagine a next summer in my head when I'm on my way to church or when I'm just falling asleep. I imagine these scenarios where I'm a character in my favorite animes or my favorite shows. And I think that helps me dream, helps me relax. Because fiction is the ultimate dream. You can write any story, any kind of character. You create the narrative. And even if people don't like what you're writing, if they don't understand it and they want to change things, nobody can change what you do or what you write. Choose your own story. Write what you dream of and what you're passionate about, and people will show compassion and they will see that your writing is a telling of what the story you want to tell is. They'll be able to completely get where you were going with something, and they'll be like, I understand, this is a pretty good book, or this is a pretty good story. You were at your highest point when you have freedom of expression. You can create a script in any way that you see fit, and you can mold it and create it for any reason. If you are just trying to get your point across, you need a script in order to read out loud what you have to say and what you were thinking at the time of writing it. You can't really always remember things that you thought about or things that you said. So sometimes writing them down helps. But also speaking them out loud is another thing you can do. But writing is more important because writing will never go away. Things that you wrote stay with you. But that also doesn't change the fact that you are you. People just need to accept that everyone is different. If we were all the same and people trying to be the same as everybody else need to understand they're not going to be somebody else. You can't be anybody else but you. You can't become a new version of somebody. You can never replace someone's talent and skill. Only people that give like non-official like title like names and opinions that don't really matter to somebody else, but they can choose what they like. People like different things. They aren't going to like the same thing as everyone else. But we will always find one thing we have in common with someone. That's what allows us to talk with someone. But if we haven't found that thing, how can we talk to them? How can we come up with new conversations? You can't interact with someone if they have nothing in common with you. If you don't have something in common with someone, or if you haven't found that special thing, you're never going to be able to get a good conversation with them. You won't have anything to talk about. But if you have too many things in common with someone and you're just alike, you'll eventually run out of things to talk about. That's why I think sometimes arguing is good because not everyone has the same opinion, but everyone has something to say about their opinions. People don't really know what it means to have an opinion. They think that their opinion is fact, or they think that, somebody else's opinion is a fact. You know, saying that you like this or someone else likes this, so you need to like it, is just gonna make you go crazy. You can't put something on a high standard and expect everyone to keep it at that and to hold it that high. Nobody's gonna hold something that high that you'll be able to enjoy it the same way as somebody else would. I don't like to explain to people why I like something when I don't know how to explain why I like something. I just think it's easier just to accept people's differences and people that don't like something. There's reasons why they don't like it, but if they can't explain it well, then that doesn't mean there's not a reason to dislike it. That just means that they have a different reason. They hold it to a lower standard than I would. They hold something lower, or they'll hold other things higher. Things that I don't really like, or that I don't really maybe I just don't understand why they like it. The issue is when people take one thing and use that as a fact. They take their opinions and as a fact, and they don't try to understand what other people are saying in their opinions. They just think that their opinion or someone else's opinion is completely right. You know, when you look at a book or a movie, and you see that the reviews on the movie are horrible. They have horrible reviews, but that's not going to mean the movie's bad, because movie critics have different like standards when they come to judging things, and sometimes they don't even know what they're talking about. It just says the dumbest stuff, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily don't have an opinion. They just either don't understand, they don't understand it, or they weren't trying to understand it. You have to keep watching or keep reading or keep playing to understand the lore and story of everything. But at the same time, it's better to just let things be. If you don't want to indulge in something and you don't want to spend time trying to understand, that's okay too. You don't have to like what everyone else likes. You may still not like it. You may still dislike it, but you will agree that they will always like what they like. You can't change someone's opinion until they decide to change it for themselves. If you're both going in different directions, then where would you come to common grounds? If you're saying, like, if the person's saying this story is better because this character is better, or this panel or manga chapter is better, but this person is saying, no, that manga chapter is terrible. This one is better. This is the best manga or anime or TV show of all time, and you're just bad for not agreeing with me. And the original person says, yeah, well, I think your opinion is garbage. And you just go on and on and on and on about the dumbest things, and you just keep saying stuff that doesn't make sense because you're just trying to rationalize with them. Even if one even if one person is making logical and good opinions, people are always going to take that as offense. They're always going to disagree and come up with dumber points, or maybe they'll shoot good points back, and you're just going back and forth to a point where it's just a matter of time before someone gives up. And whoever gives up is the one who doesn't lose the argument, but they just found something else that they'd rather do. Trying to nail it into someone's head that your opinion is different and their opinion is different is like beating your head against a brick wall. It hurts, it doesn't help you, it doesn't help them, and it certainly doesn't help the brick wall. But the brick wall doesn't get affected as much because the brick wall will always win in the end. The person who doesn't give up will persevere in the dumbest things, and they will waste their time on even dumber things until they come to terms that people are always going to be different. People are always going to see things differently. So what if we could just come to common terms and common ground that we don't have to agree on every single thing? I don't have to agree that a certain anime or a show is better to appeal to that person. I don't need to change what I like to like them more. And you don't need to be like that person. We will never be the same person. Even twins, people who were born identical, just because they look alike, they like similar things, doesn't mean they're the same person. I'm sure there's different things that they like. There's different things that make them unique. But twins are always compared, and siblings in general compared, always compared, and not necessarily by family members, but by other people too. And we just have to understand that everyone is different. Siblings are, they either get along because they're able to find the other person's difference actually valid. They understand what they're talking about. But at some point you need to like not argue with your siblings, but also come to terms and agree to disagree. You don't need to like what your sibling likes to have a conversation with them. But I also think that in order to build a healthy relationship, you need to find things that you do have in common. You know, you'll never be able to get close to someone without something that you have in common. At least one thing. And you can turn that into hours and hours of conversations. And when those hours of conversations go by, you'll remember things that most of the time most people would just forget because you care about what they have to say. So when you care about when someone says something, when something feels off or feels right, if you feel that they're saying the thing you agree with, then you will also be able to agree and you'll have something new to talk about. So what I'm trying to say is agree to disagree, but learn what the person is trying to talk about and also take in other take in what other people say, not as a fact, as an opinion. The only way you can prove something as fact is if there's statistics or something logical like how many sales something gets or, you know, how popular is it getting. Statistics don't change what you like. Statistics will never change, and logic and reasoning will never change what you believe and what you agree with. If I said I don't like Grand Theft Auto 5, then people would be like, "Oh, you just never played it." Wow, or they would be like, "Wow, why don't you like it?" I won't be able to explain, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll go into detail and they won't agree with me, or they will agree to disagree, or they'll understand where I'm coming from, and they'll recommend me another game. Maybe they'll recommend me something I would like. You know, they'll ask me what I do like, and they'll recommend me something like that. You can always learn from what other people have have seen, and what other people think isn't always a fact. It's an opinion. Their opinion will change the way that the conversation can go. But if you agree to disagree and you kind of like talk about it, talk through it for a little bit without arguing, if you can do that, then you may not agree on liking the same thing, but you can find other things that you might like. It just depends on the person. Like I said, if you come into a stubborn person who doesn't understand facts and opinions, the differences, then you won't ever get anywhere. It's like hitting your head into a brick wall. It doesn't affect the other person, but it does affect you, your mental state. It will affect your how the rest of your day basically goes. It's just not worth it. I think we need to come to terms that people like different things. If you can think of something that they would like, that would help. That would improve things in your relationship with other people so much more.